NFL wanted to make an example out of Shedeur Sanders, per HOF RB Eric Dickerson. One of the best running backs in NFL history, says the league told teams not to select Shedeur Sanders in the 2025 NFL Draft. Pro Football Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson spoke with Fred Roggin and Rodney Peete on the Roggin and Rodney show on AM 570 LA Sports. The longtime Los Angeles Rams star said he thought the Rams should have selected Sanders in the draft. He added what he heard about messaging to teams ahead of the draft about the Colorado standout. "I tell you this much, what I heard from someone that's in the NFL that the NFL told teams don't draft him. Do not draft him," Dickerson said. "We're going to make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source, a very good source." Dickerson's source also said that league officials called the Cleveland Browns during the draft after Sanders fell much further than anticipated to change the prior messaging. The Colorado product was widely viewed as a first-round prospect, but was still available by the start of the 5th round, where the Browns took him at number 144 overall. He said that, "I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said don't do that, draft him," Dickerson said. "Because they weren't going to draft him either. They were forced into drafting him because somebody made a call to them. So what was the objective? He doesn't get picked, he's an undrafted free agent." Roggin asked. "That's exactly what was going to happen," Dickerson said. "They were going to have him not get drafted to basically show you, this is what happens when you do this. I mean, look, Roggin, the NFL's got all kinds of power, they do all kinds of stuff. You know it and I know it too." Sanders was the second quarterback the Browns selected in the draft after taking Oregon's Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round, number 94 overall. Sanders was the team's final draft selection. He played well in the Browns' preseason opener against the Carolina Panthers. He completed 14 of 23 passes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns in the 30-10 win. An oblique injury kept him out of the Browns' second preseason game against the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles, but he should be good to go for the team's finale against the Rams. Cleveland named veteran Joe Flacco their starter for the 2025 NFL season. It's now a battle to be his backup between Sanders, Gabriel, and fellow veteran Kenny Pickett. The draft was supposed to be a ledger: numbers, tape, interviews, and the cold arithmetic of talent. But some ledgers have margins, and in those margins rumors grow like ivy, slow, persistent, impossible to ignore. One afternoon, a voice with the weight of history leaned into a microphone and dropped a line that cracked across the league like lightning striking steel. "Do not draft him. We're going to make an example." Eric Dickerson's words didn't just inform, they ignited. Imagine the scene behind the glass walls of the league office. Polished tables, the faint smell of coffee, and men in tailored suits shuffling papers that represent futures. Someone leans over and says the sentence aloud, and suddenly it's no longer rumor. It's an instruction, a subtle yet undeniable pressure applied to every team that could have selected a young quarterback named Shedeur Sanders. Tape becomes secondary, analytics a suggestion. What was meant to be a meritocracy now feels like theater, where power and fear script the acts more than talent ever could. On the other side of this theater, Shedeur exists in a quiet world of repetition and focus. Early mornings in the practice facility, cleats cutting turf, throwing spirals until the motion feels like a second heartbeat. Outside, the public sees controversy, social media feeds crackle with conjecture, and pundits debate motives. Inside, it's footwork, film study, and a simple principle taught long ago by a father. Control what you can, ignore the rest. The whisper of "make an example" is like wind against a wall. It rattles, but it cannot move him. Scouts and coaches face the dilemma of the whisper as well. They are human, and human beings feel pressure, even when they deny it. In the draft room, metrics and tendencies suddenly collide with rumor and expectation. Who listens to tape when an invisible hand has suggested caution? The Hall of Famers claim transforms into a moral conundrum. Do you follow the metrics and take talent at its face, or do you bow to an unseen authority? Every decision, every pick, suddenly carries a shadow. Meanwhile, Shedeur's world remains defined by practice fields and pocket presence. A missed throw isn't a headline, it's a lesson. A successful drive isn't vindication, it's calibration. He learns to fold the noise into fuel, to let speculation sharpen his focus rather than dull it. Quietly, deliberately, he builds resilience not in response to the league's whispers, but in service of his craft. Every spiral through the receiver's hands is a rebuttal that requires no words. Outside, the fire spreads. Social media pundits dissect the Hall of Famers' words, studios debate conspiracies, and fans line up on both sides of the narrative. But stories, even those born from controversy, are rarely one-dimensional. Shedeur's journey becomes the narrative's counterweight, talent and work as their own answer. In a league where whispers can shift fates, performance becomes the language of resistance. The metaphorical classroom of the draft is not the only stage. On game day, every throw, every decision, every adjustment in the pocket is a page in a ledger that the league cannot erase. The attempts to make an example collide with physics and skill. A well-timed throw, a quick read, a completion in the red zone. Action answers rumor in ways that speculation never can. The scoreboard, film reels, and stat sheets quietly push back against the narrative of control. There's poetry in this resilience. Shedeur's story in this telling is not merely about defiance. It's about transformation. The whisper becomes motivation, the perceived slight becomes fuel, and the institution's attempt at control becomes a mirror reflecting the necessity of inner strength. In quiet locker rooms and on misty practice fields, the real story unfolds, one of repetition, discipline, and the stubborn accumulation of skill. When the season begins in earnest and stadiums fill with light and noise, the draft whisper has faded into background hum. Analysts and fans may remember the controversy, but the ledger of performance writes its own narrative. Each touchdown, each perfectly timed throw, each calm decision under pressure acts as its own counterclaim. The attempt to make an example becomes a footnote in a story written in motion, resilience, and execution. Years later, the stadium lights shine down on Shedeur as he steps from the tunnel. The roar of the crowd is for the work he has done, the precision he has achieved, and the presence he commands. Somewhere, the Hall of Famers' words exist in a recording, a whisper preserved in history. But the narrative that matters, the one measured in practice, in games, in spirals that cut through the chaos, belongs to the player. The league may have tried to set an example, but excellence does not respond to whispers. It responds to effort, preparation, and the quiet defiance of continuing despite them.